Violence continues to plague Philadelphia for 2 nights in a row in the run up to the election, and the media has been strangely quiet about it for the last 24 hours. Mayor Lightfoot tries to entice people to come back to her city by telling them exactly how much taxes she's going to impose on them. Bobulinski goes on Tucker and reveals a lot of stuff that we need to think about as we go into the election, and Amy Coney Barrett is going to be using Ruth Bader Ginsburg's office, and it's newsworthy somehow. Mike, guess what day it is? It's hump day. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good Wednesday morning, folks. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We got the website going, and it's back up and running again, which means you can go back and check out all of my friends, including some of my best friends over there on the web as well. So, we got a bunch of stuff to get to as always, especially given the fact that we're moving up into the run-up to the election. 6 days, folks. I had hair in my mouth. 6 days, folks. We're getting up there. We're finally get to put this chapter of stupidity to bed and go into everybody contesting the election, which is probably going to be just as intense as everything else that we've seen so far coming up off of this here. And we will go through all of the news that's coming up here as people try to sway your opinions. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com, now relaunched, where you can pick up great shows such as The Generational Gap, The Daily Ignoramus. The R-Rated Conservative is being picked back up by our auto picker once again, so go and check him out over there. It's a great show, great guy, absolutely great guy. You can also check out great shows such as The Breakdown with Birkenhoff and The Freckles and Brit Show. So come on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Moving along here to the stocks here, the Dow was down yesterday. It was a bad day for the Dow. The futures looked like they were coming up, but as I just mentioned at the top of the show, we are 6 days out from an election. Nobody knows what's going on here. Philadelphia is on fire. Nobody knows how that's going to affect the election. Nobody has any clue of what's happening here today, but that's going to push the stocks down because those markets sure do hate uncertainty here. Let me get the live chat up here. I don't even see that up. Get that up here so we can check what you guys are saying out here. And we'll move on and see what the investors have to say from this. Dow Jones futures dive 450 points as Microsoft drops on revenue guidance. First solar surge on earnings. From Scott Latonin, Dow Jones futures along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ 100 futures were sharply lower as Microsoft fell on weak revenue guidance. Tech giants Apple and Tesla were set to retreat at the stock market open, while First Solar surged 12% on strong earnings. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite led the mixed stock market action Tuesday with a 0.6% advance. The S&P 500 moved down 0.3%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average slid 0.8% or 222 points. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple fell 1% early Wednesday, while Salesforce rebounded back above its 50-day moving average line on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Microsoft fell 2% on weak revenue guidance on earnings after the close on Tuesday. Tesla fell 1.5% in pre-market trade on Tuesday. AMD tumbled more than 4% after it agreed to acquire Xilinx in a $35 billion all-stock deal. Xilinx surged 8.6%. Stocks in or near the buy zones in the market rally are JD.com, Shopify, and Tencent. Early Wednesday, First Solar surged 12% after reporting strong earnings results. Late on Tuesday, First Solar earnings soared 400% to $145 a share, with revenue up 70% to $928 million. That blew out analyst views for First Solar earnings of 60 cents a share and sales of 707.7 million. JD.com, Microsoft, and Tesla are all IBD leaderboard stocks. On the futures, early Wednesday, Dow futures lost 1.8% versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures dropped 1.4%. NASDAQ 100 futures moved down 1% versus fair value. Remember, overnight action in Dow Jones futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. And how? Because remember, the futures were looking yesterday like they were going to be going up and We were going to open up 450 points higher yesterday, and now it's the other way, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens up off the stock here. We've got some exchange traded funds here. Innovator IBD 50 rose 0.4% Tuesday. The NASDAQ 100 linked Invesco QQQ Trust ETF traded up 0.8%. Meanwhile, the SPDR S&P 500 ETF, that's a lot of terminology right there, lost 0.3%. So we'll see what happens with that as we move into the day. CNBC will give us a slight differing opinion off of this, but looks like they're looking at the same idea. Dow futures sink 500 points as Wall Street grapples with rising COVID cases. From Fred Imbert. U.S. stock futures fell sharply early Wednesday as investors feared an increase in coronavirus infections that could halt the recovering economy. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures fell 500 points, 1.8%. The loss pointed to a drop of more than 480 points at the open. The S&P 500 futures lost 1.4% and NASDAQ 100 futures fell 1%. The Dow is already down 3% on the week, giving up its gains for October. Yeah, we're back down into the red territory for the month. Daily U.S. coronavirus cases have risen by a record average of 69,967 over the past week. Data compiled by Johns Hopkins University showed, meanwhile, coronavirus-related hospitalizations are up 5% in more than 36 states, according to data from the COVID tracking report. This uptick has led some countries to reinstate certain lockdown measures. In the U.S., the state of Illinois has ordered Chicago to shut down indoor dining. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that and what Mayor Lightfoot has to say about that. Stocks that would be hurt most by lockdowns or a slowdown in the economy reopening were hit in pre-market trading. Shares of Delta fell 2.5% in pre-market trading. Royal Caribbean shares lost 3%. Uncertainty about COVID-19 related mobility restrictions and U.S. politics mean we should expect volatility to remain elevated for the balance of the year, said Mark Hefeli, Chief Investment Officer for Global Wealth Management at UBS in a note. However, we continue to see upside over medium term. And that's absolutely true. And 100%. Because we're not going to know who's going to be the president until the middle of January. I guarantee it. Something to watch for. I know that the courts have come down and said, no, we're not hearing any more of this shit after January 2nd. So coming out here and get your shit together, figure this out, and get your challenges through to this. And there are going to be challenges. I predict that there's going to be a wall of news just about the challenges that go along with this. Plus, Philadelphia is burning, so keep that in mind as well. Nobody knows how that's going to affect the election, and the markets are just going to over that one. I think if you hadn't thrown the Philadelphia thing into the mix right now, we wouldn't be seeing quite the drop that we're seeing. We'd probably still be seeing a little bit of a drop as the polls went one way or the other, but not quite as significant as we've been seeing for the last couple days. So, a few things to watch for on this. And last one that I have here, because Spartan keeps putting it up in the live chat here, I decided that I'm going to add this to the rotation for the stocks this morning. Bitcoin, as of this morning, is at $13,276.5 US dollars. So thank you to Spartan for bringing that up to my attention. We will continue to put this into the rotation for the morning. And let's get into the news, starting with CBS Philly 3. A total loss. Looting continues for a second night in Philadelphia following fatal police shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. .cb apparently. I think somebody forgot to edit that back out here. But this comes to us from CBS 3 staff. Looting and demonstrations continued for a second consecutive night, Tuesday in Philadelphia, following the fatal police shooting of Walter Wallace Jr. in West Philadelphia. Police say looting along Aramingo Avenue in Philadelphia's Port Richmond neighborhood has rapidly gone downhill Tuesday night and is a total loss. I wonder if there's anybody here who is in West Philadelphia, born and raised at the playground. Well, probably not the playground at this part of the year, but the city is asking residents to stay indoors in West and North Philadelphia, Port Richmond, Kensington, and Fishtown. Protesters continue to face off with officers in riot gear outside the 18th Police District at 55th and Pine, along with the 52nd Street commercial corridor. Police have made several arrests. Chopper 3 was over looting on Aramingo Avenue in the city's Port Richmond neighborhood around 8:30 p.m. Looters could be seen entering a Foot Locker. I'm not going to say the stereotype. 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 Widespread looting continued at a nearby Walmart store in Port Richmond. Philadelphia police tweeted a warning to stay away from the area as a crowd of approximately 1,000 people was looting in the area. A large police presence was also seen at a Target store in Port Richmond. The Pennsylvania National Guard says several hundred members are being deployed to the city at the request of Philadelphia County as the unrest continues. 30 police officers were injured during violent protests Monday night, including a female officer who suffered a broken leg after being hit by a pickup truck. It says car in the article, but I remember that from yesterday. So, yeah, they're going to keep burning this here and going out and we're going to get our free stuff, man. It's reparations. Going right into an election. This does not bode well for Biden. I'm sorry. Another major Democrat-controlled area is going up in violence and looting. But the National Guard is coming out at this point, so we'll see what happens there. I've got another one here from the Daily Wire on the same topic. Watch. Black Lives Matter activists reportedly beat journalists during left-wing riots in Philadelphia. I love how they got to throw that left-wing thing up in the Daily Wire. I mean, it's not that it's wrong, it's just the Daily Wire's got a bias. Alright, let's see. This is from Daily Wire News. Black Lives Matter activists reportedly beat a conservative journalist in Philadelphia on Tuesday night. Oh, God. Was it Andy? Was it Andy Ngo? Oh, I hope not. Andy Ngo is cool. In Philadelphia on Tuesday night as he was on the ground covering the crimes that they were allegedly committing. It was from The Blaze. I like The Blaze too. Even though they're mostly run by Conservative Inc. But Elijah Schaffer didn't do anything wrong as far as I know, but let's see what's going on here. Blaze Media reporter Elijah Schaffer said that he was jumped by Black Lives Matter protesters after he went into a store to see what was happening inside. BLM looters jumped our reporter Elijah Schaffer while he was covering the riots in Philadelphia. The Blaze wrote on Twitter, he's continuing to report but may need stitches for a deep gash in his upper lip. Well, we actually might get to see that live. Let's see. I need to turn your audio on to do that though. Here we go.
So as you can see, it's kind of hard for me to talk right now because I got jumped inside of a Five Below that's currently being ransacked and completely looted. As you see to my left right here, this is an Eye Encounters store. We have an amazing nail spa, and also right over here, there's a Walmart that's been completely gutted. We are here across the river in Philadelphia, right by a Chick-fil-A. What happened was I just went into the Five Below to just see what was going on with some of the looting, and I was jumped by the Black Lives Matter protesters who immediately started punching and kicking me. One of them punched me directly right in the lip. I had to go to the hospital, I think, to get stitches in this lip because it's just absolutely painful. But this is what's happening in the current state over the killing of Walter Wallace Jr. the other night.
God bless that boy for keeping going. Schaffer shared a video that he says showed the moment right before he was attacked, writing, "This is footage I was recording when BLM assaulted me. Other journalists were filming, but I was the only white person in the store. I do believe I was targeted for being white as they accused me of being a white supremacist and did not attack people of color."
I'm not pointing faces. I'm on the floor.
So that's what they were seeing up out of West Philadelphia. And our thoughts and prayers go out to Elijah Schaffer. Hopefully he gets that lip fixed. Let's keep going. Speaking of the election and everything else that goes along with this, from The Guardian, which I don't usually use because they don't get green check verification, but this was interesting. I just wanted to point out that take it with a grain of salt because this wasn't verified by NewsGuard. Trump's Election Day director is waging war on the election in Philadelphia. From Nick Fiorellini. I lived in an Italian city for 10 years of my life, and I can't just come out and, boom, pronounce that. That's pretty sad. Fiorellini, I think is how it goes. Anyway. Mike Roman is claiming an increase in mail ballots will allow Democrats to steal the election despite little evidence. For decades before he worked for the president, Donald Trump's director of Election Day operations has called out and made allegations of voter fraud by the Democrat Party, building a lucrative career in the process. His name is Mike Roman, and this year he's claiming an increase in mail ballots because of the coronavirus pandemic will allow Democrats to cheat and steal the election despite little evidence. Roman is best known for promoting a video of apparent voter intimidation by the new Black Panthers outside a polling place in his hometown of Philadelphia in 2008. Filed weeks before George W. Bush left office, the Justice Department investigated the incident that was cited as evidence of Democrats seeking to influence the election. The case was later dropped because it lacked evidence. In the decade after, Roman stayed busy. He wrote about alleged election fraud for conservative websites like Breitbart. He managed a research unit for the Koch network. Koch brothers! The boogeymen are here! Did consulting work for various Republicans and oversaw poll watching for Trump's 2016 campaign. These days, he's focused on peddling the same myth in his hometown of Philadelphia, a key city in the battleground of Pennsylvania that could determine the outcome of the election. So, The Guardian is coming out basically and saying that Mike Roman is spreading a whole bunch of lies, and they don't have any evidence of this. And, I mean, if they're coming out and saying that there's not going to be any evidence of voter fraud coming up in this election, then I want to have their crystal ball because it's going to make Contemporary a lot easier to run and a lot easier to write. It's going to make it a lot easier if I have the same crystal ball where they can definitively say that there's no evidence of widespread mail-in ballot fraud in a system where we've never had widespread mail-in ballots. I would love to have the Guardian's crystal ball. But he's yet another boogeyman, and the biggest problem coming up out of this is the fact that the riots in Philadelphia are going to change the way that some of the residents vote. And I do have another Daily Wire article later on here talking about changing the vote. We'll read about that just a little bit later, but yeah, there are definitely things at play going on along with that, and Philadelphia as well. So we'll see what happens with that. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that because of the lack of NewsGuard certification for The Guardian, but it was worth noting. All right, I've got one here from CBS News. This is from my neck of the woods up here in Wisconsin because we just had a major development and some autoplay that's going on in my ear. Shut up. Shut up, you. All right. Supreme Court quashes Wisconsin court order that said absentee ballots can be counted up to 6 days after Election Day. From Jan Crawford and Adam Brewster. So, in my state, as long as the ballots are in hand, in the poll worker's hand, and this is how it's always been for absentee ballots, as long as the ballots are in the ballot worker's hand by November 3rd, they can be counted. Which goes along with the absentee ballot fiasco that I continually cite from the Evers election, where they mysteriously found 3,000 absentee ballots in a car with a gluing error at 1:30 in the morning on Wednesday morning. I continually cite that particular instance because I think that's a possibility coming up in this one. But the next thing, and this goes along with what we were talking about with mail-in balloting, the next thing that we see coming off of this was that there was a challenge and an injunction that came in from a federal court that said that, oh, well, we'll be able to count ballots that arrive in our hands up to 6 days after the election. And the Supreme Court said no. So let's see what the facts are on this before I give my take on what's happening with this. This is from Jan Crawford and Adam Brewster. The Supreme Court on Monday night voted against reinstating an order by a Wisconsin federal court judge that said absentee ballots could be counted if received within 6 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked by Election Day. The final vote was 5-3. The ruling came down as the Senate voted to confirm Amy Coney Barrett as the newest justice to the Supreme Court, solidifying the conservative majority to 6-3. All those seats need to be nonpartisan. Wisconsin is one of about 30 states that require absentee ballots to be received by Election Day to be counted. A federal district judge previously concluded the deadline violated Wisconsin voters' rights in light of the coronavirus pandemic and agreed to extend it by 6 days until November 9th. A Chicago-based federal appeals court then blocked the judge's order, saying it violated Supreme Court precedent by changing the state election rules too close to an election and usurping state legislative authority to change the state's rules. I believe that is the 7th Circuit that Amy Coney Barrett used to sit on up until Monday night. In Monday's order, a majority of the justices agreed with the appeals court, with John Roberts, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh writing separately to emphasize that federal courts should not be making last-minute changes to state election rules. Monday's decision is in line with the previous Supreme Court orders during the pandemic. The conservatives generally reject efforts by lower courts to change the election rules or extend deadlines in the run-up to the election, saying such decisions are for state election officials and legislatures. And that right there is what sets this apart and different from what happened in Pennsylvania. Because in Pennsylvania, when the law was changed to allow ballots to be counted up to 3 days, or received up to 3 days after Election Day, which I don't care for. I don't care for any of that in and of itself, but that was done by the legislature. That wasn't done by a federal court coming in and saying, no, you have to do this. The legislature came in and said, okay, we want to do this. And the conservatives challenged it and said, no, you can't do this. And they took it up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, I don't want to hear it. This is a state rights issue. You're on your own. This is also a states' rights issue because it was a federal court that said, you shall accept the ballots. And Robin Vos over at the legislature said, no, we're not going to do that shit. It's too close to the election. And the Supreme Court sided with Robin Vos because it is a states' rights issue. I should probably verify that Robin Vos is the assembly speaker in the state of Wisconsin. So that's what happened there. That's how that's different from Philadelphia. And honestly, Philadelphia, I don't care for the decision, or sorry, not Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't care for the decision up there either, but the state legislature said it's so I can't really say anything about it. But as we're going to see coming out of this, at the end of Election Day, in states like Pennsylvania that have allowed this to happen, we're going to see the numbers come rolling in. We're going to see what the red mirage is, and Philadelphia or Pennsylvania is going to know exactly how many mail-in ballots they have to produce out of nowhere to try and overcome the numbers and win Pennsylvania for Trump. Or I'm sorry, for Biden. Wow. I'm getting way kind of confused today. All right, so that's what we see out of that here. Good on the Supreme Court for allowing federalism and state sovereignty to reign. Let's keep going here. I've got a tweet storm from the city of Chicago. Oops, let me get rid of that. I've got a tweet storm from the city of Chicago going on, talking about everything that's happening and their budget. This is quite a lengthy budget tweet thread, talking about the fact that they're facing a massive financial challenge as a result of the pandemic and absence of assistance from the federal government. Quite a few tweets going in there talking about their budget shortfall. But the last one here is the one that I wanted to point out. Now, there's a slew of expats leaving Chicago. Some of them are coming to my state. But they're leaving Chicago because they were jacking up taxes on them and various other crime and corruption that goes on in Chicago. But Mayor Lightfoot puts out at the end of this tweet thread a reminder of the pandemic's impact on our economy is a 77.5% decline in the hotel tax, 49.5% decline in the amusement tax, ground transportation tax down 47.8%, parking taxes down 48%, motor vehicle fuel tax down 48.5%, city share of budget sales tax down 35%. If you want people to stay in your city, or if you want to entice new people into your city to replace the expats that now live in Indiana and Wisconsin, I wouldn't lead with how hard you're giving it to the people in taxes, because that's what you're leading with on this. The second phase of fines and fees reform resulted in the removal of $129 million in storage fees from 35003 Vehicle Impoundment Program documents. They're forgiving utilities, parking fines, storage fees, all that, and they're wondering why they have no money. Chicago is going to be in a tough place. A tough place coming up here. All right, let's talk about the emails and the Hunter laptop. Plausible deniability. Tony Bobulinski claims Biden family shrugged off concerns about risk to 2020 bid. From Adam Shaw and Brooke Singman over in Fox News. Tony Bobulinski, a former business associate of Hunter Biden, claimed in an interview Tuesday that the Biden family shrugged off concerns that Joe Biden's alleged ties to his son's business deals could put a future presidential campaign at risk. Bobulinski, in an interview with Fox News' Tucker Carlson tonight, said he raised concerns in 2017 to the former vice president's brother, Jim Biden, about Joe Biden's alleged ties to a possible joint venture with the Chinese energy firm. Bobulinski, a retired lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, was the former CEO of Sinohawk Holdings, which he said was the partnership between the CEFC chairman Yi Jianming and the two Biden family members. I remember saying, "How are you guys getting away with this? Aren't you concerned?" he told Carlson. He claims that Jim Biden chuckled. Plausible deniability. He said it directly to me in a cabana in the Peninsula Hotel. In the interview, he outlines how an alleged meeting with Joe Biden took place on May 2nd, 2017. Fox News first reported text messages that indicated such a meeting. Bobulinski said that it was the Bidens, not him, who had pushed the meeting. They were sort of whining and dining me and presenting me the strength of the Biden family to get me engaged and to take on the CEO role to develop the Sinohawk in the U.S. and around the world in a partnership with the CEFC, he said. He went at length to show into how Joe Biden arrived for a Milken conference, partly held at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and how he was introduced by Jim and Hunter Biden to the former vice president. "I didn't request to meet with Joe," he said. "They requested that I meet with Joe. They were putting up their entire family legacy on the line. They knew exactly what they were doing." He asked why the former vice president would want to meet him. Why, on 10/38, on the night of May 2nd, would Joe Biden take time out of his schedule to take time with me, behind a column so people could not see us, and have a discussion with his family and my family, and business at a very high level, he said. The meeting on May 2nd, 2017 would have taken place 11 days before May 13th, 2017. Wow, that's good math right there. Email obtained by Fox News, which included a discussion of remuneration packages for 6 people in a business deal with a Chinese energy firm. The email appeared to identify Hunter Biden as chair/vice chair, depending on the agreement with CEFC, in an apparent reference to now bankrupt CEFC China Energy Co. The email includes a note that Hunter Biden was some office expectation. He will elaborate. A proposed equity split references 20 for H and 10 held for H for the big guy. With no further details, Bobulinski has repeatedly said the big guy was Joe. Biden has repeatedly denied being involved with his son's business dealings. Once again, and I've said this right from the beginning, innocent until proven guilty. This does need to go before a jury of Hunter's peers and Biden's peers. But everything that's coming out about this paints a very dreary picture for somebody who's fighting to have the highest office of the land, who used to be in the second highest office in the land. And I mean, there is the article that we're going to read later from the Daily Wire that says, can I change my vote? Searches on Google. Here's where you can do that. So the information is getting out there for people to be able to change their votes, but the mainstream media is not going to cover this. The mainstream media is barely covering the Hunter emails. And with the QAnon thing that goes along outside of any of the scope of reality, there's also the fact that, well, the laptop had pictures of Hunter with underage girls and the drug party and the foot job and the crack pipe and everything else off of this. And all of that is bad for Biden because he is the author of the 1994 crime bill, which means that his kid is getting away with stuff that crime bill was putting black men in prison for. But none of that is as bad as if Joe Biden was using his office and his influence to make money from foreign governments. And right now, all the evidence sitting in front of us is saying that he has and should be taken once again in front of a jury of his peers. And I do have to wonder at some point if there are hands in the cookie jar that go along with this in other places in the government, because they're trying damn hard to make sure that Vice President Biden gets into office where, just like Trump at this point with all of his holdings and business dealings and everything else that the SDNY is talking about, into a point where he can't get prosecuted or investigated with executive privilege. And they would have to wait until after he was out of office to do so. There's something going on in the background with this. I'm not 100% sure of what it is, but there's something going on in the background of this. And thank you to Tucker for getting this guy up on the news. I got just a couple more stories on this. From Yahoo News, Tony Bobulinski reveals details of conversation with Joe Biden. Oh, this is just a video. Screw that. We'll get rid of this one, because Fox News will ding me. Move on to Newsweek. Joe Biden was the chairman who ruled out tighter controls for Hunter's China business. Tony Bobulinski claims from Jeffrey Martin. This is the same story we just read from Fox News, but it's going to be from a slightly different angle, so there may be some new information to this. In an interview with Tucker Carlson on Fox News Tuesday night, Hunter Biden's former business partner, Tony Bobulinski, said the Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden, did not want tighter controls placed around a holding company that did business with the Chinese government. Bobulinski has claimed to have information linking Biden's family to shady business deals in China. When some documentation was published by the New York Post in October, which purported to provide evidence, many claimed the story was based on uncorroborated sources. Bobulinski said in a Thursday press conference that he had documentation and electronic devices that would implicate the Bidens. Pseudonyms for major players in the businesses were allegedly used in the emails, including the word chairman, which Bobulinski claims is how Hunter Biden referred to Joe Biden. Bobulinski said he has asked for tighter financial controls to be placed around Oneida Holdings, a company set up to handle dealings between the Bidens and Chinese energy company CEFC. According to Bobulinski, Hunter Biden replied by saying that his chairman gave an emphatic no. What Hunter Biden is referencing there is he spoke with his father, Bobulinski told Carlson, and his father is giving an emphatic no to the ask that I had, which was putting proper governance in place around Oneida Holdings. That is not me writing that, Bobulinski continued. That is not me writing that. That is Hunter Biden writing on his own phone that I spoke with my chairman, referencing his father. Newsweek reached out to the Biden campaign for comment. Yeah, I'm sure the Biden campaign went like this when they got that notice. Joe Biden has denied the allegations of accepting payments from a foreign entity during the final presidential debate in October. Come on, man. No, I don't make money in foreign governments. You do. That's you, man. Come on. I've not taken a penny from any foreign source at any point in my life, Biden said, adding that Hunter Biden made no money from China, in spite of the fact that he had a company in China. And no, that's not a bad thing. Everybody's out there for all the globalism, and there are foreign businessmen out there, but if it's the government that's coming out and paying Hunter Biden for influence, that's a completely different story. So, definitely some stuff to watch off of this here. Politico is trying to smear this as a big nothing burger. Let's see what they have to say off of this. MAGA scrambles to repair the Hunter Biden narrative. Politico, of course, being no friend to President Trump. This is from Tina Wynn. Weeks ago, when Rudy Giuliani first threw the contents of Hunter Biden's alleged laptop online, he promised a trove of even more damning information 10 days before the election. Yet, with less than a week to go, Giuliani, President Trump's personal lawyer, is still moving down the conservative media food chain, looking for takers. The Wall Street Journal and Fox News have both reporting finding no evidence that former Vice President Biden benefited from the Hunter Biden business dealings that have drawn scrutiny, except for the fact that Bobulinski was just literally on fucking Tucker. More explicitly, pro-Trump media outlets, OAN, Breitbart, Newsmax, have mostly shied away from publishing fresher, more salacious allegations, and conservative talking heads, pundits, politicians, and loud mega Twitter personalities alike have been more focused on the meta-narrative around the laptop, arguing that mainstream media, social media companies, and the deep state are conspiring to prevent President Trump's re-election by suppressing the story. When Breitbart did touch on the revelations, it preemptively distanced itself, carefully framing the fresh trove of emails as an independent investigation by Peter Schweizer, author of Clinton Cash, the 2015 look into the Clinton family's extensive foreign financial ties that made several overstated or inaccurate claims. So the story has gone elsewhere. Videos apparently showing Hunter Biden in compromising positions, allegedly obtained from the laptop, have been uploaded to a Chinese website owned partially by Steve Bannon, the former Trump aide who has been helping Giuliani. The explicit photos ended up on the Gateway Pundit, a site known for promoting conspiracy theories about various Democratic figures. An email allegedly tying Hunter Biden to a Kazakh oligarch ended up in the British tabloid The Daily Mail, with only a passing mention of Biden. Other details have been published by outlets connected to prominent conservative super PACs. And I love and I wanted to bring this out, and I pulled this article specifically to show you this here. An email allegedly tying Hunter Biden to a Kazakh oligarch ended up in the British tabloid, The Daily Mail. The Daily Mail, half the time, is the most trusted news source that the left likes to use, but given the fact that the email got out to them and they published it, now they're a tabloid, just like the New York Post. The oldest newspaper in circulation in the United States, the New York Post, is also a tabloid because they went out and covered this. Anybody who's covering this right now is a tabloid and should not be trusted, according to people like Politico. And once again, the kiddie stuff, the crack pipe stuff, the stuff that goes on like that, take all that with a grain of salt, especially given the fact that the computer owner would be in violation of federal law if he did copy a hard drive with kitty diddling on it. That's something to keep in mind as you go forward with this, but the business dealings, and they're going to start using this kitty diddling stuff to try and discredit the news about the business dealings. The business dealings are where you need to keep your focus on. So keep that in mind as we go into this here, and Politico is trying its best to try and tell you that none of this is real, nothing to see here, don't look over. Don't talk about this stuff. Nope, nothing to see here. All right. This is apparently news. I put the spoiler in the Discord when I put this up here and Midget was commenting on it. Spoiler alert, I'm going to make fun of this reporter. Spoiler alert, you've been warned. Barrett to use Supreme Court chambers previously used by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was elected to the bench because Ginsburg passed away. Where in ever-loving hell else where she is supposed to fucking go? Seriously. You people don't think when you report. This is from John Krusel over at The Hill. Newly confirmed Justice Amy Coney Barrett will use the Supreme Court chambers formerly occupied by the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg because she was appointed in the wake of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. A court spokesperson said on Tuesday, The court also said Ginsburg's 5 law clerks are now working for Justices Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan. Barrett officially became the nation's newest justice on Tuesday when she took the judicial oath administered by Chief Justice John Roberts during a private ceremony. She immediately came under political pressure when she was asked by a county in Pennsylvania to recuse herself from participating in a dispute over the state's mail-in ballot extension. No! The Senate voted 52 to 48 on Monday to confirm Barrett to fill the vacancy left by Ginsburg following the liberal stalwart's death from cancer on September 18th. Barrett is the first justice in modern history to be confirmed without bipartisan support, underscoring Democratic frustration with the GOP push to confirm her and misgivings about her judicial philosophy. As a staunch conservative, Barrett is expected to cement a 6-3 conservative majority on the court. I don't buy that for half a second. And constitutionalist is not a synonym for conservative, no matter how much websites like The Hill want it to be. Because then they can come out and say, those evil conservatives, we're going to resist, we're in the resistance. Let me point something out to you. If the mainstream media, the Democrat Party, the movie industry, big business, and a host of other wealthy donors are in your back pocket, you are not the resistance. You are the machine. But my God, I cannot believe this is news. Where was she going to go? Other than the chambers occupied by the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Where else was she going to go? Can anybody answer that? It's the most obvious place for her to go. And there went my earpiece. Somebody looked at this headline and said, yeah, I'm going to write this. This popped into somebody's head and said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to write this. And somebody at the Hill approved this to go out. This is your mainstream media, folks. All right, I could go on a rant on this forever, but we got to keep moving along here. Next one here comes to us from The Blaze. Ben Shapiro hits AOC with a history lesson after she lashes out over Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation. This is from Chris Enlow. Democrats exploded in anger Monday after Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed to the Supreme Court and then sworn in as the court's newest associate justice. Yeah. You should see the Instagram stories. Those are the worst. People who used to just run pretty girl accounts are now these major political activists, and all they are is, Amy Coney Barrett's going to do this, and Amy Coney Barrett's going to do that. They promised retaliation and blamed Republicans for escalating tribalism in American politics. But conservative commentator and lawyer Ben Shapiro was quick to provide Democrats with a history lesson. What did Democrats say? Representative Ilhan Omar said expanding the Supreme Court and packing it with liberal justices is necessary because such measures will fix what she called a broken system. This is a broken system. Remember that Republicans have lost 6 of the last 7 popular votes but have appointed 6 of the last 9 justices, Omar claimed. By expanding the court, we fix this broken system and have the court better represent the values of the American people. Yeah, they're going to jerk that popular vote for as far as they can fucking get it. Meanwhile, Senator Chris Coons said Democrats should not stop at the federal court. He said Democrats should pack the entire federal judiciary with liberal justices. Enter Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who claimed that Republicans are bulldozing their agenda into reality. Expand the court, Ocasio-Cortez said immediately after the Senate confirmed Barrett. Republicans do this because they don't believe Dems have the stones to play hardball like they do. For a long time they've been correct. But do not let them bully the public into thinking their bulldozing is normal, but a response isn't. There is a legal process for expansion, she added. As Shapiro was quick to point out, Democrats began political escalation, particularly in the Senate, years ago, and those chickens are now coming home to roost. According to Shapiro, Democrats are responsible for the political environment that has resulted in the confirmation of judges like Barrett. The funniest part about this tweet is that Democrats were the first to destroy judicial candidates for mere interpretational disagreement, but the first to use the filibuster against judges, and the first to nuke the filibuster against judges, but she thinks that the Republicans started it, Shapiro wrote in response to Ocasio-Cortez. Indeed, Senate Democrats have spent decades tearing down conservative-leaning judges nominated to the federal judiciary. The climax of such behavior happened in the fall of 2018 during Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation when Democrats pushed unsubstantiated claims that he was a serial sexual assaulter. Yeah, they like to push a lot of unsubstantiated claims. That lady from the department store is putting on a major lawsuit against Trump at this point because she can't get it through a criminal court. And they keep trying to say 26 people have come forward with sexual assault allegations against the president. And yet, I have yet to see any evidence that comes along with any of this. And once again, and this is something the left in this country has forgotten, and something that I always point out when it goes with the Hunter Biden stuff as well, and the Joe Biden stuff. Innocent until proven guilty by a jury of your peers. Meanwhile, as the Heritage Foundation explains, the filibuster implemented in the early 1800s was originally meant for legislative purposes, but Democrats were the first to invoke the filibuster in 2003 against nearly a dozen federal judicial nominees appointed by then-President George W. Bush. W! Fuck that guy. And who could forget when, in 2013, then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid forever changed the landscape of the Senate by invoking the so-called nuclear option to lower the vote threshold required to approve federal judges. Democrats did this in retaliation against Senate Republicans, who at the time were in the minority in the Senate, for taking a play from the Democrat playbook and using the filibuster to block many of then-President Barack Obama's executive nominees. After Democrats changed the rules, then Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell left Democrats with a sobering warning. You'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think. Turns out McConnell was right. So, yes, thank you, Ben, for putting that out there and enjoying that little bit of back and forth with them. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, can I change my vote? Surges on Google. Post-debate. Here's where you can. And this article needs to be shared far and wide because there are a lot of people that early voted before they heard the oil comment and before people started tearing Philadelphia down that do need to get this information. I'm going to tweet this article out and I'm going to put it up on the Discord so the rest of you guys can get it out to your various social media platforms. This is from Amanda Prestigiacomo. Since the second and final presidential debate, Google searches for "Can I change my vote?" and similar inquiries have spiked, according to Google Trends, a rather significant trend, since more than 62 million votes have already been cast in the election via early poll voting, absentee ballots, and mail-in ballots, and we're still 7 days out from Election Day. The initial post-debate spike in Google searches was only matched Tuesday morning after President Trump tweeted to the American people that they can change their votes in some states. Strongly trending Google since immediately after the second debate is, "Can I change my vote?" Loves his caps lock button. This refers to changing it to me, your favorite president. The answer in most states is yes, go do it, the president urged. Most important election of your life. Until 2024, when that's the most important election of our lives. Here's what those spikes look like in Google searches for "Can I change my vote?" There's your chart right there. For those of you listening back on the audio platform, it's kind of wavering down towards the bottom. There's a big spike on October 25th, which was debate night. And it faltered and dropped. Rose up a little bit again and then dropped, and then once again right there today after Philadelphia started burning. In some states, within certain parameters, Trump is correct. You can change your early vote. According to reports from CNN, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and the New York Post, election laws allow remorseful voters in New York, Florida, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Washington, Mississippi, Idaho, and Connecticut to amend their vote. And throughout this article, it shows what to do in the event that you have voter's remorse in the states that it's allowed. I will use Wisconsin as the example because I live there. But once again, this will get tweeted out and it will be put in the Discord. I'll throw this in the live chat too here, so you guys can see it there and see if any of this applies to you. I don't think it will, but so you can get the information out to your neighbors if they have remorse. In Wisconsin, a voter, whether voting by absentee ballot in the clerk's office or by mail or at the polling place, can receive up to 3 ballots. The first 2 are spoiled, says the Wisconsin Elections Commission. I'll put this article out here for you, but once again, in the Discord and in the Twitter, it will go as well. There it is for you guys. So yes, you can change your early vote and make sure this gets shared far and wide. From The Blaze, First Lady Melania warns Joe Biden's socialist agenda would destroy America. From Breck Dumas, First Lady Melania Trump made a campaign speech Tuesday in Pennsylvania making the case for voters to re-elect her husband, President Donald Trump, and warning that the Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's socialist agenda would destroy America. Now, to be fair, Joe Biden doesn't have a socialist agenda. He's got the brain of Swiss cheese that comes from advanced Alzheimer's disease. But all the bureaucrats and everybody else waiting in the wings behind Joe Biden do have a socialist agenda. I wanted to put that out there because I know that as soon as this gets out there to the mainstream media and the lamestream fuckers come out there and say, well, actually, that's the reality of it. Joe Biden has no agenda. Joe Biden's agenda is making sure that he gets up and puts underwear on every day. But all the sharp-minded people in the potential administration behind him are like, we're going to get our socialism. We're going to get it. We're going to get it. And we're going to be the ones in power. Mrs. Trump was making her first solo trip of the 2020 campaign in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. The polls show Trump and Biden in a tight race in the state, the Associated Press reported. Biden also visited the state on Monday. As an American, I am proud that we have a president who puts our country first, Mrs. Trump told the crowd at Glen, Pennsylvania. Remember, we are a strong nation. Again, with Donald Trump as president, we will be even stronger when we beat COVID-19. This election isn't just about the next year, the First Lady continued. It is about the next 4 years and beyond. It is about continuing to set this country on a course of real prosperity and success. We can't and we shouldn't go backwards. Then Mrs. Trump went after Biden directly, saying, Joe Biden's policy and socialist agenda will only serve to destroy America and all that has been built in the past 4 years. The First Lady began her speech by thanking supporters for the well wishes her family received after she, President Trump, and their 14-year-old son Barron all contracted COVID-19, but she defended her husband's handling of the coronavirus pandemic before declaring, We don't close down and hide in fear. We get to work and find real and lasting solutions. And of course, Melania is from Eastern Europe. She has seen some of the socialist and even communist agenda at work, in play, and I have other friends that have done the same. I mean, most people know at this point, I'm friends with Freckled Liberty over on Twitter, who came from Russia. And she was too young to remember it, but her parents were up and alive into it, and most likely remembered very, very clearly what the socialist agenda does to a country. So, and I know the college Marxists come out there and try to tell you that it's all going to be farts and fucking rainbows if they get their socialist agenda through, but to be completely honest, I would rather take the words of people who have lived through such a thing. All right. From Fox. Maybe. Getting to the end of that computer processor here. Google, Facebook, and Twitter CEOs to appear on Capitol Hill for grilling over censorship. From Marissa Schultz. The CEOs of major tech companies will be in the hot seat on Wednesday. That's today, as Republican senators accuse their internet platforms of censoring conservative viewpoints and demand changes to the federal law that protects them from lawsuits. Republicans have long been concerned that big tech was biased against conservative viewpoints, but Twitter's efforts to shut down the spread of the New York Post reporting on emails allegedly from Hunter Biden's laptop was the final straw, prompting lawmakers to summon Google, Facebook, and Twitter CEOs to testify before the election. At the heart of Wednesday's hearing before the Senate Commerce Committee is whether social media giants should still be afforded liability protections under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. Republican critics believe that Twitter, Facebook, and Google should no longer be shielded as a neutral platform when they operate more like a publisher, but not all Democrats, including the Section 230 co-author Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, agree. The chairman of the committee, Senator Roger Wicker, co-sponsored the legislation to reform Section 230 to better define what tech companies can censor and to disincentivize them from editorializing posts without warning labels and fact checks, which has happened in the recent months to President Trump's tweets. Section 230 gave content providers protection from liability to remove and moderate content that they or their users consider to be obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. Wicker is expected to say in his opening statement on Wednesday, provided Fox News. This liability shield has been pivotal in protecting online platforms from endless and potentially ruinous lawsuits, but it has also given these internet platforms the ability to control, stifle, and even censor content in whatever manner meets their respective standards. The time has come for that free pass to end. Yeah, and I've got different opinions on this. I can see it from both sides. Now, and this is the libertarian side of me on the Federalist, that they are private companies and the government should be out of their way for them to do whatever they want. And competition should be allowed to come up in their wake. Now, of course, people like Dorsey and Zuckerberg, once competition gets up and gets powerful, they go up and buy up the competition and shut it down. So there's that, and that's part of what's going on with antitrust as well, because they're all being called to answer for antitrust on top of all of this. But I also know the fact that we have moderators, content moderators, who are mostly left-wing in these companies, who know that they can't just ban somebody for saying the N-word. Well, no, they can just ban somebody for saying the N-word, but they sit and watch these accounts that have major political, ideological differences from them and just wait for either that person or somebody in the comment section to drop the N-bomb or something in their comments or in a tweet or anything else like that so they can throw the hammer down and ban them. I don't know where I fall on this. I don't want to see private companies be regulated by the federal government. I do not. But I also know that a lot of these people are doing the work of the DNC to try and get the message out of the way so that only left-wing voices can rise and be popular. And that does seem like an in-kind campaign contribution. There's a lot more to go with this. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand where the law goes on this, but we will watch and see what the Senate has to say about it. All right, I got one over here because I know that Ron's watching, because I see him over in the chat over there. And I know that Ron loves this guy. Bloomberg makes last-minute ad buy in Texas, Ohio on behalf of Biden. It's Ron Helton's favorite guy, Mike Bloomberg. This is from Ash Snow. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who ran the most expensive failed presidential bid in history, is now spending money to boost Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden in the Republican strongholds of Ohio and Texas. The last-minute advertising amounts to $15 million, a fraction of what Bloomberg's spending in Florida to support Biden, and represents internal polling suggesting President Donald Trump is vulnerable in the two states, the New York Times reported. Howard Wolfson, one of Mr. Bloomberg's closest aides, said the former mayor had recently asked his team to run a round of polls to see whether Mr. Trump had unexpected vulnerabilities that could be exploited in the campaign's closing weeks. Up to this point, Mr. Bloomberg's general election activities have focused on Florida, where he has pledged to spend $100 million supporting Biden, the outlet reported. The Bloomberg team conducted polling numbers, or in a number of states rather, over the weekend and came away convinced that Texas and Ohio represented its best targets, narrowly divided electoral prizes, where the war for television airtime is not already cluttered with heavy advertising on either side. The team presented Mr. Bloomberg with the numbers on Monday morning, and he gave the go-ahead. We believe that Florida will go down the wire, and we're looking for additional opportunities to expand the map, Wolfson told the outlet. Texas and Ohio present the best opportunities to do that in our view. Bloomberg plans to focus on Trump's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, like every other fucking news outlet has done for the last 9 months. When purchasing television ads in Ohio and Texas. In Texas, Spanish-language ads will run. Biden has repeatedly knocked Trump for his handling of the coronavirus. Meanwhile, hiding in his basement, once again. He's in no position to do anything, so I can't really say much about him hiding in the basement. That's probably the best place for him right now, because he's old, decrepit, demented, and the coronavirus will probably kill him instantly. But I digress on that. But he's not said what he would have done differently. Come on, man, it'll be different because I got a D after my name, and this guy's just mishandling stuff. The plan that he has put out contains everything the Trump administration is already doing. As the Daily Wire previously reported, Bloomberg in September vowed to spend $100 million in Florida to defeat Trump. Where's the FEC on this? I thought individual contributions were capped at $2,300. Where is the FEC on this? Because, this seems like in-kind campaign contributions, and if the right was doing this, oh my God, we gotta get money out of politics. It's the Koch brothers. It's the Koch brothers. They own everything. That's what it would be if this was going in the other direction. So, definitely some stuff to watch for off of this. I don't know why I know why the FEC isn't doing anything because, well, he's just trying to get rid of the evil orange man. But, yeah, go spend that money, Bloomberg. All right, last one here, and then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head on out of here. This is just... I don't even know who this person is, but I know that I can't stand her. Pregnant supermodel Emily Ratajkowski, I think is how you pronounce that. I have no idea, like I said, who this person is. Says she and her husband won't know the baby's gender until our child is 18, and they'll let us know then. From Dave Urbanski. It's become the standard fare for leftist celebrities to proclaim they're letting their children choose their genders, and pregnant supermodel Emily Ratajkowski is the latest, writing in Vogue that she and her husband won't know the gender of their baby until our child is 18, and they'll let us know then. Ratajkowski added to her essay, I like the idea of forcing as few gender stereotypes on my child as possible, but that she doesn't like that we force gender-based preconceptions onto people, let alone babies. I want to be a parent who allows my child to show themselves to me. And yet I realize that while I may hope my child can determine their own place in the world, they will, no matter what, be faced with the undeniable constraints and constructions of gender before they can speak or hell even be born. Yeah, even your diapers are designed differently to accommodate the different kinds of fucking plumbing. You moron. Indeed, the woke pronoun thing is primed and ready to go. Still, she acknowledged that she's asked her husband, actor-producer Sebastian Bear McLeod, if he wants a boy, and that he refuses to give me an answer, swearing that he doesn't have a preference. But one Sunday, he's watching football, and he makes remarks on how it'd be fun to have a little boy to watch with. Ratajkowski said, she shot back, girls watch football too. It's really not that hard, people. A lot of it boils down pretty much to how you pee. If you got an innie or an outie. And this wasn't that difficult that long ago. And the whole thing started with the bathrooms. And pretty much by the time the federal government is making laws that determine what bathroom you use, the federal government has grown beyond its relevance and needs to be shut down. Up until 6 years ago, it didn't matter what bathroom you used. It didn't. Because the bathroom wasn't a political statement at the time. It wasn't an identity statement. It was how you evacuated waste from your body. And the bathrooms were set up to most effectively evacuate waste. Most men would be standing up to pee, so the plumbing was designed for men to stand up to pee. Most women sat down to pee, so the plumbing was designed for women to sit down to pee. That was why we had separate bathrooms. And then, of course, the safety in the changing room thing is another possibility to that. But that's been what's come out to the forefront here. But bathrooms are for the evacuation of waste. And the plumbing is designed to do that in the most effective and quick manner so people can get back out of the bathroom and go on with their lives. Yes, girls watch football too. My sister is an avid football watcher. I used to be, up until they started their woke bullshit and I said I can't do this anymore. My sister was very avid about it. My ex-fiance was very avid about it. So yes, absolutely, girls watch football too. How you pee doesn't define what you're interested in. Now, psychologically, yes, girls tend to go a certain way and boys tend to go a certain way. But that's not set in stone. The only thing that's most important out of all of this is how you pee. And I've always said, because I've got a close friend who's getting closer to me that's transgender. How you pee doesn't make any difference to me. Rachel's cool. I like hanging out with Rachel. Never question how she pees. But that's how that goes. And this political statement is just stupidity off of this. Rant over at this point. We're going to do a thing I'm thankful for, and we're going to head on out of here. So, this is the last Wednesday that I will be doing Contemporary before the election, which means the next time we do a thing I'm thankful for, election will be over, and we'll be into the next news cycle, which will be contested elections, contested court cases, and everything else. And that's what I'm thankful for at this point. I've got the day off for election night, and we'll be doing a long-form live stream for election day. So come and hang out with us. I'm not sure what the format will be. I got to reach out to a few people. I know that we'll be getting a call in from Stephen Ignoramus, who's going to be on the ground in D.C. doing election reporting. But yeah, we're going to do a long coverage. We're going to be watching the numbers as they roll in and all that kind of stuff here. So definitely be here for that. But I'm most thankful right now that it's almost over. It's almost done. We almost get that first night answer, and then we get to watch all of the Supreme Court cases and everything else off of this. The craziness, well, shit, that's just getting started. But the craziness will be in a new topic by the time we talk about this next week. And we don't have to listen to campaign ads anymore. We don't have to see a campaign ad on every single fucking YouTube video in the world. We will have peace. It'll be over. And that's what I'm thankful for at this point. It's been a long, hard, fought-out 2020 election year, election campaign. You guys have carried me through, launching a new show, welcomed in a new co-host. You guys have been great to me. I'm sure you guys are thankful for the fact the election is about to be over too, and absolutely. So we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, more news stories, and more stupidity. Because until the run-up of the election, all I see is more stupidity to come. So look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you in the morning. We will read the names and thank everybody who chatted in the live chat on Friday, once again, as always. So if you're in here lurking, make sure you get your chat messages in. And we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.